Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're taking a deep plunge, really getting into a topic that, well, most people fundamentally misunderstand the actual mechanics of claiming respect.
Yeah.
We've pulled together some key actionable insights from strategies for command through self-respect. Now, usually we think respect is something you have to chase,
Right.
right? Something external.
Okay, you pursue it, you perform for it, you try to negotiate it.
Exactly. But the material we have, it suggests something pretty radical, almost counterintuitive. We're
Right.
asking, what if the power to command respect doesn't actually come from proving yourself to others?
Mm-hmm.
What if it comes from establishing and really sticking to absolute internal standards?
That is absolutely the core kind of revolutionary idea in these sources.
Mm-hmm.
They state it really clearly. Genuine long-term respect isn't something you earn from others. It's something you establish in yourself.
Mm-hmm.
It's rooted in setting non-negotiable personal standards. And this is crucial, consistently showing that you refuse to tolerate any violation of those standards. Yeah. Whether that's internal, like giving yourself excuses, or external from others. So our mission today is pretty focused. We want to extract and clearly define the 6 core, daily strategies that turn this from just an idea into actual behaviors you can use.
Right.
These are the daily tactics that shift your focus entirely onto your own self-respect and your own consistency.
And this isn't, fuzzy feel-good stuff. This sounds like hard work.
It is.
The sources make it really clear that self-respect is built through repeatable, sometimes maybe even painful daily behaviors.
Yes.
Not positive thinking or waiting for someone else to validate you. It's an act of consistent integrity. Okay, let's unpack this, starting with the foundation. So the first core strategy, the one everything else seems to rest on, is being willing to make a difficult trade-off. Prioritizing your personal integrity over your comfort. That seems to be the initial step, the fork in the road that separates people who command respect from those who are always sort of seeking it.
And this prioritization, it costs something. It's expensive, like you said. It's not just about, avoiding telling a lie.
Right.
It's about actively choosing the path that aligns with your highest values, even when the comfortable option, the easy way out, is right there.
Okay.
For you, the listener, the source really emphasizes that integrity demands you constantly assess the cost of every relationship, every commitment against your values. Think about it like this. Maybe you have a big client, and they consistently demand work under conditions you find unethical, or maybe just impossibly tight deadlines that force you to compromise quality.
Yeah, that happens.
Right. So prioritizing integrity here means being willing to actually lose that contract, accepting the discomfort, maybe the financial hit,
Wow, yeah.
rather than taking the comfort of the money by sacrificing your standard of quality work. That's the trade.
That example makes it really concrete. Okay, so that distinction leads perfectly into the second strategy, which seems to, operationalize that integrity. It's about establishing non-negotiable standards.
Exactly. We've identified the trade-off integrity over comfort. Now, what are the actual standards we're fighting to protect?
Right. What are they specifically?
Well, the sources insist these standards have to be concrete behaviors, not just abstract feelings like I want to be honest.
Oh, okay.
They have to be quantifiable things you do or refuse to do daily.
Mm.
For instance, a standard might be, I will never be late for a commitment I've made. Simple, but hard. Or maybe, I will not participate in gossip even if it makes me seem like I'm in the know or, part of the group.
Interesting.
Setting these standards, it basically acts as your internal constitution. It clearly defines what you're willing to accept from yourself, and by extension, what others need to meet to be, in your orbit.
So it starts with you.
Always. If your standard is high-quality work, you stop making excuses for yourself when you submit something half-finished. And when others see you holding yourself to that rigorous standard, they naturally start to afford you the respect of knowing you mean what you say.
Okay, so we've anchored the internal work. There's the trade-off. Integrity over comfort.
Yep.
And the definition. Non-negotiable standards. Now, for the tricky part, I think, how does this internal stuff actually show up when we deal with other people?
Right, the interaction.
That brings us to the third strategy, which is all about self-management. Mastering your emotional reactions.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this sounds great in theory, right? But when someone genuinely pushes your buttons, genuinely upsets you, isn't just stuffing that emotion down unhealthy. How do the sources handle that criticism? That idea that emotional mastery is just suppression?
That's a really crucial distinction. The sources are very clear about it. They argue that emotional mastery is not suppression, it's selection.
Selection. Okay, explain that.
It means recognizing the emotion, You feel the anger, the frustration, the defensiveness, but you choose not to let that emotion dictate your immediate physical or verbal response.
Oh, I see.
See, when you react emotionally, lash out, get defensive, you basically hand over control of the situation to the person or the event that provoked you.
Right, you lose control.
Exactly. The source material views that kind of emotional reaction as a form of self-disrespect because you're letting an external force hijack your internal state. Mastery means you stay calm, you observe what's happening, and then you decide on the most effective, controlled action to take. It preserves your energy and, importantly, your dignity.
That quiet control, that internal choice, it leads perfectly into the fourth strategy then. Speaking truthfully but decisively. This is how that inner calm presents itself externally, right? Communicating your reality without all the emotional noise.
Absolutely. When your emotions are mastered, your speech becomes like a tool of precision. The sources strongly advocate for communicating boundaries and truths through decisive action and very controlled speech.
Controlled speech.
Yeah. The moment your voice raises, the moment you resort to insults or emotional blackmail, you've essentially lost the power dynamic. Doesn't matter how right you are on the facts, you've lost. Think about the difference, say, between arguing with your neighbor about their dog barking, getting all emotional and defensive.
Yeah, that never works.
Right. Versus a calm, factual statement like, the barking violated the HOA noise rule at 10:00 p.m. last night. I value quiet after 9, so the next time it happens, I will immediately report it.
Okay, direct, factual.
See? You haven't shouted, you haven't begged, you haven't apologized for needing quiet. You've just stated a truth and attached a clear, decisive course of action. That decisive communication, that is what commands respect.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, I think, especially for anyone listening who feels maybe stuck in a cycle of toxic interactions or just persistent arguments.
Yeah, the recurring stuff.
Yeah. We've set the internal standards, we've mastered our speech. But what happens when someone actively violates those clearly defined standards? How do you actually move from setting the standard inside to enforcing it outside? The fifth strategy seems to be the ultimate behavioral shift. Respect is taught through consequences and decisive action, not through endless arguments or emotional fights.
Yes.
The strategy suggests you should basically never waste your energy debating why the other person was wrong or disrespectful.
Precisely. Debating someone who has disrespected you is essentially seeking their validation. You're asking the person who hurt you to agree that they hurt you, so you can feel justified.
Oh, that's a good point.
The sources see this as a massive energy drain.
Yeah.
And fundamentally a failure of self-respect.
Yeah.
You're giving them power over your sense of rightness. The decisive action, the consequence, it just removes the energy source for the disrespect. It removes the opportunity for it to happen again in the same way. If someone consistently wastes your time, for example, the consequence isn't a long, drawn-out phone call explaining why time management is important to you. The consequence is a sudden, quiet shift. Maybe you only communicate with them via email from now on.
Ah, setting a boundary through action.
Exactly. You've established a behavioral boundary through action, not by lecturing or arguing. You're respecting your own time and energy first.
But I have to ask, because this feels like the sticking point for a lot of people, especially in, say, professional settings or with family. If you continually set these boundaries and enforce consequences, doesn't that just lead to more confrontation, more friction?
It could seem that way.
How do the sources justify this approach as commanding respect rather than just, starting fights?
They justify it through the sixth and final strategy. And this one is presented as the ultimate expression of self-possession, of self-respect, the calm withdrawal.
The calm withdrawal, okay.
Yeah. This is the definitive consequence when all other standards have been breached, when communication fails, when consequences are ignored. If a situation, a person, or maybe an entire environment is consistently costing you your integrity, forcing you to violate your own standards, and requiring you to constantly engage in emotional conflict, the highest act of self-respect, according to these sources, is the calm, non-heated, decisive physical withdrawal.
Physically leaving.
Yes. And the sources are really clear. This is not running away in fear or anger. It's a conscious choice to remove yourself as the source of attention or energy for that conflict. You just leave calmly.
Wow. That calm exit, that decisive, non-emotional walking away, that's a really potent nonverbal statement, isn't it?
Incredibly potent.
It's basically say, I don't need your acknowledgement, I don't need your validation, or even your agreement to know my own worth, and I simply will not participate in an environment that seeks to diminish it.
Exactly that. When you execute a calm withdrawal, You demonstrate total independence from needing the other party's approval or change of heart. This self-mastery, this calm certainty, it ultimately forces others into a position.
What position is that?
Either they must rise to meet the standard of behavior required to be included in your presence again, or they will simply be excluded. Permanently, perhaps.
Mm.
That is how the sources frame the concept of commanding respect. It comes purely through your internal actions and boundaries.
That is a really powerful synthesis. Okay, so to bring this all home for you, the listener, the overarching concept woven through all 6 of these strategies, from prioritizing integrity right at the start to ultimately calmly exiting a toxic situation,
Right.
it's this radical idea that external respect is basically just a reflection of your internal consistent behavioral standard.
Yeah, it mirrors what you hold yourself to.
You are the locus of control. You are the one setting the standard for the entire interaction, whether the other person realizes it or not.
We started by challenging that common assumption, that respect is earned from the outside in.
Right.
And this material, it provides a pretty clear behavioral blueprint to flip that entire idea on its head. Self-respect isn't a feeling you wait for. It's a stack of consistent daily behaviors you choose.
Behavior's not feeling.
Got it. And its highest form of command seems to come from that calm, decisive control over your own reactions, your environment, and your unwavering commitment to your personal standards, which raises an important question, I think.
Okay, so since this entire powerful framework, it's all built on setting these non-negotiable personal standards and committing to daily behaviors that reinforce them, behaviors that often mean choosing integrity when comfort looks easier.
The hard choices.
What is one non-negotiable standard, a concrete daily behavior, remember, not just an abstract feeling, that you, listening right now, could commit to starting today? Something to anchor your own self-respect and begin commanding the respect you deserve. Just one thing to start with. Think about that commitment.